Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Scott Giacomucci. I'm the director and founder of the Phoenix Center for Experiential Trauma Therapy in Media, Pennsylvania. My expertise is really in trauma, in group work, and in trauma-informed care. And this video is going to be devoted to outlining the basics and really just an introductory video about the United States Surgeon General's new guidance that was released about healthy workplaces. And so this was just released in October 2022. And I was very excited, so excited about the release of this new guidance that I thought I would make a video about it to try to get the word out to others, to workplace leaders, to CEOs, to directors, folks in nonprofits, and to other professionals. Oh, I'll put a link in the description below if you wanted to read this publication for yourself from the Office of the Surgeon General. And this is focused on workplace well-being and mental health. And so the Surgeon General's office is part of the Department of Health and Human Services, which is also the same department that houses SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, which created trauma-informed care principles. And if you're familiar with trauma-informed care principles, you'll see that they're really reflected in the workplace essentials that the Surgeon General outlines for organizational leaders. If you're not familiar with trauma-informed care principles, I encourage you to check out some of the other videos on the channel here, where I do a more in-depth presentation overview of trauma-informed care. So the Office of the Surgeon General, right at the beginning of this publication, they have this nice quote that I thought I would quote. They say, workplaces can be engines of mental health and well-being. So we spend oftentimes 40, 50 hours of our week in our workplace. Sometimes we spend more time at work than we do at home in a given week. We certainly spend more time at work than we do anywhere else other than home in most cases. And it makes sense that our workplace, our work environment, our working relationships, our organization would have a significant impact on our sense of well-being and our health and mental health. And there's a ton of research to back this up. I'm not going to go into all the research in this video, but if you wanted to dive into the research, you could look at all the references that are cited in the Surgeon General's office publication. Or I have a forthcoming book coming out called Trauma-Informed Principles in Group Therapy, Psychodrama, and Organizations, Action Methods for Leadership. And in this book, I really demystify some of the research about trauma-informed care principles in organizations and what it means to be a trauma-informed organization, all the different ways that burnout, stress, trauma, loss can impact any organization, not just social service organizations, but really any and all organizations. That organizations are essentially a group of humans, and that humans are impacted by mental health, by trauma, by loss, and that the collective functioning of our organization, of our group, is going to be impacted by the individual health, well-being, mental health of everyone within our organization. And that the organization itself becomes its own entity. The organization is its own living, breathing organism. This is really outlined in Sandy Bloom's work. And that just like an individual's past experiences of trauma, of neglect, of loss, of stress can impact them in the future and in the present, in the same way our organization's experiences of trauma, of loss, of adversity can have an ongoing impact. That our organizations can demonstrate similar defense mechanisms that individuals demonstrate. And so, for all these reasons and more, it's important that we're considering individual mental health of our staff members and also the collective well being and health of our organization. The workplace well being impacts everything. It impacts the productivity and performance of each individual, of each department, and of the overall organization. And it also has a direct impact on individuals' sense of happiness, well being, and health. There's a whole bunch of studies to support this. Many diagnoses of depression are impacted by one's experience in the workplace. Stress can have a physiological impact and really contribute to our risk for heart problems, lung problems, all sorts of medical diseases. And our risk for these can be increased based on our work stress and working in a stressful work environment or an unhealthy work environment. Absenteeism, all these different things are impacted by the overall health of an organization. So another quote from their publication, the Surgeon General's publication, is that creating an environment where workers' voices are supported without fear of job loss or retaliation is an essential component of a healthy organization. And so this means that we really seek feedback from our staff, from our workers about how the organization can be better, and that we integrate their feedback. We don't just ask them for it, but we take it seriously. We create changes based on what they ask for, what they believe would be helpful. We share the decision-making power with everybody in the organization to some degree, that we get input and feedback before making decisions that are going to impact others. This is really just kind of foundational practice for good leadership and trauma-informed leadership. And so the Surgeon General outlines 5 workplace essentials, each of which are connected to 2 basic human needs. And I'm going to run through these very briefly in a moment here. I want to just add, as a business owner, as a supervisor, and as a therapist, and as someone that's been an employee in different, a worker, a staff member in various agencies, universities, treatment centers, hospital systems, nonprofits, that from what I can tell, our experience in our work, our career, is one of the primary contributors to a sense of happiness, well-being, depression, anxiety, burnout within most people's lives. That the majority of psychotherapy clients I work with, and perhaps every single client I've worked with, at some point talks about how their work impacts them. Sometimes for some of my clients, the stress they experience at work is the primary focus of our sessions. And sometimes it's the primary focus of our sessions for weeks at a time or months at a time. Oftentimes we unconsciously reenact our family dynamics and family roles within our organizations. And there's actually some research on this. And so if our families were traumatic, if we experienced trauma in our families or abusive relationships, it makes sense that our work relationships could be, we might be reenacting abusive relationships in the workplace. We might create codependent or abusive relationships with our colleagues. We might unconsciously be reenacting past trauma through our relationship with our supervisor, with our boss. We might be projecting all the negative experiences we've had with people in leadership in the past, people who had power over us in the past, onto our relationship with our director, supervisor, CEO, and vice versa. And so our workplace, our experience in the workplace has a really significant impact on our mental health. Oftentimes, these relationships can trigger past trauma and really need to be addressed. I'm not saying they should be addressed specifically in terms of trauma therapy in the workplace, but uh, there's ways that we can operate and run organizations that are more trauma informed than other ways that mitigate potential risks of reenacting trauma, reenacting discrimination and oppression, reenacting power dynamics and unhealthy relationships in ways that might cause harm to others or might trigger other people's trauma in the agency. And of course, each individual has a responsibility for their own healing. Of course, leaders have a responsibility of not causing harm and practicing leading in ethical ways. And each of us has an individual responsibility and commitment to engaging in our own healing process. So I want to say that both of those exist at the same time. Anyways, here's the 5 workplace essentials outlined by the Surgeon General. Number 1, protection from harm. So the 2 human needs that go along with this are the human needs for safety and the human need for security. And one way to think about this is that there's multiple levels of safety and security. That we're not just protecting our staff from physical harm and providing security in the sense of security cameras and security guards and lighting in the parking lot and those kinds of things, but that there's multiple levels of safety. That safety and security exist on a physical layer, on an emotional level, that we're promoting safety emotionally, psychologically, that there's also a social and cultural aspect of safety and security. Do people socially and culturally feel like they can be who they are in the workplace and that they're going to belong, that they're not going to be discriminated against, that they're not going to be attacked for what they believe in or different aspects of their identity? And morally, there's a need for safety and security. Do the ethical values and the organizational values of the organization have congruence with an individual's personal beliefs and their personal values and principles? And so we need to consider moral safety as well, that we're not asking people to do things in their workplace that violate their moral values. And this can get particularly more complex in some fields, versus other fields, and especially when some of the laws or standards for practice might not be incongruent with everybody's moral values. And there's definitely ways of navigating that are better than others. So with this first workplace essential, protection from harm, we, as leaders in an organization, we take responsibility for protecting our staff, our community, our clients, our consumers, all of our staff, no matter what their role is. We take responsibility for their protection, for creating a safe container that the organization becomes, for establishing, upholding, and maintaining safety and security. The second workplace essential is about connection and community. So this one is about relationships, essentially. That, again, an organization is a group. It's a group of people. It's a network of relationships and connections. An organization is a community. And so this is really explicitly emphasized in the report from the Surgeon General. And the 2 human needs that go along with this essential are the human need to feel a sense of belonging and the human need for social support. And so in our organizations, how are we contributing to a sense of community and connection? How are we cultivating relationships with our staff? How are we positioning staff members in ways that they can cultivate relationships with each other. How are we building an overall group as a whole, an organizational cohesion, a sense of community between everybody in the organization? Are we providing peer support and social support, supervision, oversight, ongoing opportunities for connection within the organization? And this can happen in both formal and informal ways. And this essential really ties into the importance of diversity and inclusion within our organizations. That our organizations really need to not just on the surface say that we're diverse or that we'll provide services for anyone or that we don't discriminate based on race or gender, but we really need to embody that. And we really need to create organizations where anyone and everyone, regardless of their identity or social location, feels a sense of belonging, that they feel seen, heard, valued, and equal to everybody else, regardless of identity. And so the third workplace essential is about work-life harmony, that there's a balance between our work life and our home life, that there's a balance and perhaps even an integration between our personal and professional self. That the two human needs articulated that go along with this essential are the human need for autonomy and the human need for flexibility. And so ways that we can promote work-life harmony in our organizations include having boundaries between work and life for our staff and respecting those boundaries, that we're not expecting people to respond to emails or respond to phone calls outside of work hours or on weekends unless it's part of the needs of the role. That we respect the boundaries of our staff, that we encourage staff to set boundaries, that we have boundaries as leaders and that we're not constantly working all the time, that we provide maximum autonomy for our staff. We, as much as we can, give them a sense of ownership over their work, a sense of empowerment, decision-making capacity in their roles, that we allow them to take time off and to create their own schedule and have autonomy and power over those kinds of things as much as possible. The fourth workplace essential is mattering at work. And so this ties into the two human needs of dignity and meaning. So ways we can embody this are we pay people a living wage, that we create a culture of expressing gratitude to our staff, recognizing our staff when they do a good job, really celebrating the strengths of our staff, of our employees, and making that a habit, that we go out of our way as leaders to express our gratitude, to thank our staff members for showing up, for doing a good job, for going above and beyond when they go above and beyond. That we make people feel like they matter at work, that their work has meaning and purpose. We try to give them a sense of co-responsibility in the organization. We try to align our organizational mission and values in a way that it aligns with individual purpose, and individual values of our staff and of ourselves. And we try to share decision-making power in a way that makes our staff feel like they are co-creating the organization, that they co-own the organization in some sense, or in a literal sense, that they're co-responsible for the organization, that they have a sense of ownership over their work and their contribution to the organization, that they're respected and that they have dignity, value, and worth for who they are and what they do in the organization, regardless of what their role is. That there's essentially a sense of mutuality in that way, that everybody is treated as if their role is important in the organization. The fifth and final workplace essential is about opportunity for growth. And so the two human needs attached to this are the need for accomplishment and for learning. And so there's different ways as organizational leaders that we can really embody this in our organizations, provide opportunities for growth. A simple way is by offering training, mentoring, education, informally and formally, by bringing in industry experts to provide trainings to our staff, by providing reimbursement or paying for training, continuing education for our staff to continue to grow, to be better, to get new certifications, to learn new skills that are going to help them in their work. That we're providing opportunities for advancement and promotion within the organization, that our staff don't feel like they're stuck in their role, that there's a possibility, an avenue, a pathway for them to continue to grow in the organization, to step into more leadership in the organization. And that we're constantly not just celebrating accomplishments and learning, but we're also looking for feedback and providing feedback about how we can grow as leaders, how the organization can grow, and how our staff members can continue to grow as professionals. So these are the 5 essentials, workplace essentials for well-being and mental health outlined by the Office of the Surgeon General. Protection from harm, connection and community, work-life harmony, mattering at work, and an opportunity for growth. Again, if you wanted to learn more about this, I encourage you to check out the publication linked in the description below. And if you're interested in exploring this on a deeper level, I encourage you to reach out to me. I'm beginning to offer more leadership retreats for organizational leaders and for organizational staff, focused on integrating these 5 workplace essentials into our workplaces, into our board meetings, into the way that we talk about the organization, the work, at every level of the organization, from the leadership to middle management and frontline staff. And would really encourage you to reach out for more information about opportunities to collaborate. Would love to consider providing a workshop at your organization, further integrating some of these ideas, these principles into your workplace, seeing how we can help you and your organization best fulfill your mission, whatever your mission is, to reach the potential of your organization, of your leadership, the potential of the processes you've created, the products you've created, the services you've offered within your organization, and to help all of your staff step into their potential and become the best that they can be. So please reach out to me for more information about those offerings. I'll put a link in the description below where you can learn more about those workplace offerings. We'll come out to your site, to your workplace, and offer that on site if you'd like. So if you found this video helpful, I encourage you to write in the comments below what was helpful about it. What did you learn? What will you be implementing in your work going forward? What surprised you, or what did you not know previously? Or what do you feel like is missing from this video or from the publication by the Surgeon General's office? How could this information, this approach be better? And I really encourage you to check out the other videos on the channel here. We have a bunch of different videos about trauma-informed organizations, about mental health, about trauma, vicarious trauma, burnout. I hope you found the video helpful here, and thanks for listening.